The evening light slanted through the wide glass windows of our living room, turning everything golden. I had just finished preparing dinner, the scent of roasted chicken and herbs lingering in the air, when I heard the faint sound of footsteps behind me. My husband, Arif, had returned from work earlier than I expected. He had that look on his face, the mischievous one he wore when he was ready to tease me, to chase me around the house until laughter echoed off the walls. I smiled knowingly, but pretended not to notice. "Arif," I said, arranging the plates neatly on the table. "You're home early." He leaned against the doorframe, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, his eyes sparkling with something playful. What can I say? I couldn't stay away from my favorite person too long. I rolled my eyes dramatically, the warmth spread across my cheeks. "Flattery won't get you out of helping me set the table." "Oh, won't it?" he asked, taking a slow, deliberate step forward. That was when I decided to run. It wasn't planned, it was instinctual. Like a child trying to escape tickling fingers, I darted away from the table, barefoot across the rug, laughing as I dodged his attempt to grab me. He followed with long strides, moving slower than he could have, savoring the chase. "You think you can run from me?" he called after me. "Watch me," I shouted back, dashing into the hallway. My hair flew behind me as I turned sharply, my heart racing. Not from fear but from joy. It reminded me of the early days of our marriage, when everything was fresh and we turned even ordinary evenings into playful adventures. I wanted to relive that feeling of being caught, of knowing he'd never really let me go. I skidded to a stop in front of the bedroom door, fumbling to open it, but before I could slip inside, he caught me. Strong arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. My laughter spilled out, filling the hallway as I struggled in mock resistance. "Arif," I squealed. "Let me go." "Not a chance," he murmured against my ear, tightening his hold just enough to remind me that escape was impossible. He gently turned me, pressing me against the door, his eyes searching mine with playful triumph. I stopped struggling then, caught between giggles and the warmth of his gaze. "Do you surrender?" he asked softly. I tilted my chin stubbornly. "Never." That was enough to make him laugh, a deep, genuine laugh that shook through his chest and melted into mine. He leaned closer, resting his forehead against mine, both of us breathing hard, not from exhaustion but from the thrill of our little game. "You drive me crazy, you know that," he whispered. "I consider it part of my duty as your wife," I teased. For a while we just stayed there, wrapped in each other's presence. The playful chase had turned into something tender, grounding. His hands slid down to hold mine, pinning them lightly against the door, not forcefully, just in that way that made me feel utterly safe, completely his. I closed my eyes and let the silence stretch, broken only by the faint ticking of the clock in the hallway and the hum of our breathing. Dinner was nearly forgotten until the aroma of roasted herbs drifted back into my awareness. I laughed, nudging him gently. "If we don't eat soon, the food will be cold." He groaned dramatically, releasing me only enough to lace his fingers with mine. "Fine. But you're sitting beside me tonight. No running away. Promise?" I teased. "Promise." We carried the meal to the table together, this time without games, though his hand never once left mine. After dinner, we settled on the couch with cups of tea, the warm light of the lamp casting soft shadows across the room. I tucked my feet under me, leaning against him, and he absent-mindedly traced circles on my hand with his thumb. "You know," he began, "sometimes I wonder how lucky I got. Not everyone comes home to a wife who runs through the house like she's in a romantic comedy." I laughed, resting my head on his shoulder. "Well, not every wife gets a husband who chases after her every single time." We sat in silence for a while, sipping tea, watching the night settle outside. The quiet between us wasn't heavy, it was comfortable, filled with unspoken promises and years of love. Later that night, as we prepared for bed, he caught my hand again before I could step away. "Don't run this time," he said softly. I looked at him, my heart swelling with affection. "I won't." And I didn't. Not that night. Not ever again in the way that would truly take me from him. Our playful chase had ended, but the warmth of his arms around me remained, reminding me that no matter where I went, I'd always be caught, because I wanted to be. The memory of our chase reminded me of our first year of marriage, when life was still unfolding like an unopened book. Arav and I had moved into a small apartment, one with a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people. I remembered how we used to cook together, bumping into each other constantly. Once, while I chopped vegetables, he reached over me to grab the spice jar. I had swatted at his hand and tried to dart away, but he blocked my path with an exaggerated grin. "Where do you think you're going, Mrs. Arav?" he had teased. It became a pattern. Whenever life felt overwhelming, he'd find a way to chase me playfully around our little home, until I was laughing too hard to be stressed. It wasn't about catching me really. It was about reminding me that we were partners, that joy was always within reach. Years later, even after life brought its challenges, long work hours, bills, disagreements, we never lost that spark. On the days when silence stretched too long, one of us would deliberately provoke a chase. Sometimes it was me stealing the TV remote and running off with it. Sometimes it was him hiding my phone just to watch me hunt for it. Those little moments stitched our marriage together stronger than grand gestures ever could. That evening, pressed against the door as he held me captive in his arms, I realized how precious it was that even now, years later, he still found joy in chasing me. And I still loved being caught. That night, after we finally settled under the blankets, Arav spoke into the darkness. "You know, sometimes I'm scared." I turned toward him, surprised. "Scared of what?" "Scared that one day, life will get so busy, so complicated, that we'll forget this. The laughter, the silly chases, the little games. What if we get lost in responsibilities and stop being us?" I reached out, resting my hand on his cheek. "Then we make a promise tonight. No matter what happens, no matter how many years pass, we'll never stop chasing each other, even if it's just across the living room." He chuckled softly, pulling me close. "Deal." And just like that, the fear in his voice dissolved into the quiet rhythm of our breathing. Life did get busier. Careers advanced, family responsibilities grew, and our home changed from a small apartment to a larger house filled with memories. But some things stayed the same. Even years later, Arav still chased me across the living room when I teased him too much. And I still tried to run, knowing full well he'd catch me every single time. That's what love is, I realized. Not the absence of responsibility, but the determination to keep laughter alive in the middle of it. Every time I walked past that door, the one I had been caught against, I smiled. It wasn't just wood and paint anymore. It was a reminder of a night filled with laughter, warmth, and love.